Standing before you is a human being who makes NBA centers look like shooting guards. He is listed at 7'9". He is the tallest basketball prospect on the face of the earth. According to the International Basketball Federation, no player in the world comes close to his height at his age. He broke Guinness World Records at just 15 years old. He is taller than Yao Ming. He is taller than Shaquille O'Neal. He is significantly taller than the current alien of the NBA, Victor Wembanyama. And yet, despite being a literal giant among men, despite possessing the one unteachable trait that every scout in history has drooled over, he is not in the National Basketball Association. He is not currently projected to be a lottery pick. In fact, he is not even in the conversation for the draft at all. This presents us with a fascinating, almost confusing paradox. We are told that basketball is a game of height. We are told that you can't teach size. So how does someone with once-in-a-century height struggle this much to climb the basketball ladder? Why isn't the tallest basketball player in the world dominating the sport that was supposedly built for him? This is the story of Olivier Rioux. It is a story about genetics, about the ruthless evolution of modern basketball, and about the harsh reality that sometimes being the biggest doesn't mean being the best. This is the story of the giant who should be unstoppable, but isn't. I'm terribly sorry to interrupt, but please like and subscribe if you can. I'm a small creator with no team, and each video takes over 20 hours to make, so your support truly makes a difference. Now, let's get back to the video. To understand the anomaly of Olivier Rioux, we have to go back to Montreal, Canada. Most growth spurts are gradual, but Olivier's was an explosion. In the scouting world, numbers usually tell a story of progression. For Olivier, the numbers sounded like fiction. By the time he was just 8 years old, he was already 6 feet, 1 inch tall. That is taller than the average adult man, and he was in elementary school. By age 12, he stood 6 feet, 11 inches. By the time he entered high school, he had already surpassed the 7'5" mark. This wasn't just a random occurrence. It was written in his DNA. The Rioux family is a timeline of vertical outliers. His father stands 6 feet, 8 inches. His mother is 6 feet, 2 inches. His older brother is 6 feet, 9 inches. But Olivier was the one who kept growing, stretching past the limits of what we consider normal, even for a family of giants. Naturally, the world of basketball came calling. He started in local youth programs, eventually playing for the Montreal Tornadoes, before moving to the prestigious IMG Academy in Florida, a factory for professional athletes. It was there that the world really began to pay attention, not because of his jump shot or his post moves, but because of the visual spectacle. Photos of him standing next to his teammates went viral instantly. He looked like a created player in a video game, where someone had turned the height slider all the way to the maximum. But as the cameras flashed and the internet buzzed, a narrative began to form. He was a sensation. But was he a basketball player? Fame is a strange thing in the 21st century. For Olivier Rioux, fame arrived long before any real basketball accolades. At age 15, the Guinness Book of World Records officially certified him as the tallest teenager in the world. This recognition ignited a firestorm of hype. When ESPN and FIBA featured him, the comment sections were flooded with predictions. People called him Shaq 2.0. They called him the next Victor Wembanyama. They saw the number, 7'9", and assumed that dominance was inevitable. The logic seemed sound to the casual fan. If you're that tall, you just stand under the rim and put the ball in the basket. Who is going to stop you? He weighed in at approximately 305 pounds. He had a standing reach of over 10 feet, meaning he could almost touch the rim without lifting his heels off the hardwood. The expectation was that he would arrive on the college scene and immediately destroy the competition. But there is a dangerous gap between internet hype and athletic reality. While the world was sharing memes of him dunking on 5'10" teenagers without jumping, scouts were seeing something else. They saw a young man carrying a massive amount of weight. They saw a player who, despite his height, wasn't dominating the box scores. The viral photos told one story, but the game tape told another. Olivier Rioux had become famous for his dimensions, not his game. And living up to that kind of physical hype is a burden that few athletes in history have ever had to carry. Here is the uncomfortable truth that basketball purists know, but casual fans often miss. Being extremely tall is not the same thing as being athletic. In fact, at a certain point, extreme height becomes an athletic disadvantage. When we analyze the physical profile of Olivier Rioux, we see the limitations of the human body when it is stretched to these extremes. At 7'9" and 305 pounds, the laws of biomechanics work against you. The most telling statistic regarding Olivier isn't his height, it is his vertical leap. According to recent measurements, his vertical leap is approximately 11 inches. To put that in perspective, an average NBA center typically has a vertical leap between 24 and 28 inches. Elite explosive athletes can jump 40 inches or more. 11 inches means that while Olivier is massive, he is ground-bound. He does not have the explosive twitch fibers to elevate quickly over defenders. Then there is the issue of coordination. The signal from the brain to the limbs has a longer distance to travel. Reaction times for players of this size are historically slower. Balance becomes a constant negotiation with gravity. When you are that tall, your center of gravity is incredibly high, making it difficult to change direction, stop on a dime, or react to a quick crossover. History gives us a list of players with similar dimensions, and it is a list filled with complications. Taco Fall, at 7'6", became a fan favorite but struggled to stay in the NBA because he couldn't keep up with the pace. Manute Bol, at 7'7", was a shot-blocking specialist but was extremely thin and lacked offensive versatility. Yao Ming was a Hall of Famer, but his career was cut short because the human skeleton struggles to support that much mass moving at high speeds. Olivier Rioux is fighting against biology. Moving a 300-pound frame up and down a 94-foot court 50 times a game is an exhausting physical endeavor. It is not just about being tall, it is about functional athleticism. And right now, the gap between his height and his functional movement is the primary wall standing between him and the NBA. If Olivier Rioux had been born in 1995, his path to the NBA might have been paved with gold. 20 or 30 years ago, the NBA was a game of giants. You drafted a 7-footer, parked him in the paint, threw him the ball, and let him go to work. But Olivier Rioux was not born in 1995. He is trying to enter the league in the mid-2000s, and the game of basketball has undergone a violent revolution. The modern NBA is built on 3 things: speed, spacing, and switching. Today's centers are asked to do things that would have been unthinkable in the past. They need to guard the pick and roll at the 3-point line. They need to switch onto lightning-fast point guards like Ja Morant or Stephen Curry and keep them in front. They need to sprint the floor in transition to open up the offense. This era is often called the pace and space era. It is an environment that is hostile to the traditional giant. Olivier's playstyle is strictly interior. He is a force in the paint, but he struggles with lateral movement. In the modern NBA, if a center cannot move his feet sideways to stay with a guard, he is targeted. Opposing teams will force him into a pick and roll on every single possession, isolating him in space and running him off the floor. We also have to look at the skill requirement. The unicorn of the NBA right now is Victor Wembanyama. Wembanyama is 7'4", but he moves like a wing player. He shoots 3-pointers. He dribbles the ball up the court. He creates his own shot. Olivier Rioux, by contrast, does not have a 3-point shot. he does not possess perimeter mobility. His game is limited to what is known as the dunker spot, standing near the basket and waiting for a pass, or posting up with his back to the basket. In 2025, being 7'9" and only being able to score from 2 feet away is a difficult sell for NBA general managers. They are looking for versatility. They are looking for shooters. They are looking for players who can survive on an island defensively. Unfortunately for Olivier, his skill set is currently trapped in a time capsule from the 1990s, while the rest of the league is playing a futuristic version of the sport. Scouting is not just about measuring height, it is about measuring production. And when we look at Olivier Rioux' resume on the court, the numbers are surprisingly modest for someone of his stature. He has represented Canada in multiple FIBA youth tournaments, playing against competition his own age. In the 2021 U16 Americas tournament, he averaged 8.3 points and 10.3 rebounds. Solid numbers, but not world-breaking. However, as the competition improved, the production dipped. At the 2024 U18 FIBA Americas, he averaged just 4.5 points and 4.5 rebounds per game. And most recently, at the 2025 Q19 FIBA World Cup, he averaged just 1.6 points and 2 rebounds per game over 7 games. Perhaps the most shocking stat from that tournament is that, despite being the tallest player in the gym by a significant margin, he averaged under 0.5 offensive rebounds per contest. This lack of dominance carried over to his college recruitment. He was not a 5-star recruit pursued by every blue blood program in America. He committed to the University of Florida, but his path there has been one of development, not instant impact. He joined the Florida Gators as a preferred walk-on. He redshirted his entire first season, meaning he practiced with the team, but did not play in games, specifically to focus on his conditioning and body composition. In the 2025-26 season, his freshman year on the court, his minutes have been scarce. In his debut, he played just 2 minutes and recorded 0 stats. As of now, he averages 0.5 points per game. He is a practice player, a developmental project who helps his teammates get used to shooting over a giant, but he is not yet a rotation player in the Southeastern Conference. This is a stark reality check. The tallest player in the world is currently struggling to get playing time on a college team. It is important that we do not paint a picture that is entirely negative. Olivier Rioux is not without talent, and he is certainly not without potential. There are reasons coaches are still intrigued by him. First, you cannot teach 7'9". You cannot teach a 10-foot standing reach. When he is in the right position, he is simply impossible to contest. He has a naturally soft touch around the rim. Unlike some big men who have stone hands, Olivier catches the ball well and has a decent feel for putting it in the basket when he gets deep position. Furthermore, his attitude is cited as a major strength. Coaches at IMG Academy and the University of Florida have described him as hardworking, humble, and incredibly coachable. He understands his limitations. He knows he needs to work on his body. He is a positive presence in the locker room, a gentle giant who is beloved by teammates. We also have to remember his age. Big men historically develop later than guards. Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Rick Smits, Mark Eaton, these were giants who took time to grow into their bodies and their games. Olivier is only 19 years old. His body is still maturing. The strength and conditioning staff at Florida is working to reshape his physique, stripping away bad weight and adding functional muscle. There is a world where, with enough time and patience, he becomes a situational weapon. A player you bring in for 5 minutes to disrupt a zone defense or completely shut down the paint on an inbound play. He is raw, but he is not hopeless. However, to assess his NBA chances honestly, we have to look at the specific, tangible obstacles that stand in his way. This is where the substance of the scouting report lies. The first and most critical obstacle is mobility. We touched on this, but it cannot be overstated. In transition, when the other team gets a rebound and sprints the other way, Olivier struggles to keep up. If the game turns into a track meet, he becomes a liability. He effectively turns the game into a 4-on-5 situation for his team until he can get down the court. The second obstacle is conditioning. Oxygenating a body that size requires a massive cardiovascular engine. High-intensity basketball is exhausting. Currently, Olivier struggles to play extended minutes without fatigue setting in. Fatigue leads to lazy defense, fouls, and injury risks. This leads us to the third, and perhaps darkest, concern: durability. NBA executives are risk-averse. They know the medical history of players above 7'5". The stress placed on the feet, the knees, and the hips is immense. Stress fractures in the feet, specifically the navicular bone, have ended the careers of many giants. While Olivier has no current diagnosis of a serious disorder like acromegaly and has relatively proportional features, the sheer physics of his existence puts him at high risk for lower body injuries. Investing a draft pick and millions of dollars into a player who might break down under the rigor of an 82-game season is a gamble many teams are terrified to make. Finally, there is the skill gap. Height helps you rebound, but rebounding is also about positioning, boxing out, and motor. His rebounding numbers suggest he relies on being tall, rather than being a relentless pursuit rebounder. He is not yet an elite rim protector because he lacks the timing and vertical pop to block shots that aren't right in front of him. His offensive game is limited to the paint. In an NBA that values versatility above all else, Olivier is currently a specialist with a very narrow window of utility. There's a psychological aspect to Olivier's journey that deserves attention. He is a victim of the meme-ification of sports. When you are that big, people stop seeing you as a person and start seeing you as a prop. The internet sees a clip of him dunking without jumping and screams, "Draft him #1." But this creates an impossible standard. The public expectation skyrockets to a place that reality cannot match. We saw this with Robert Bobrovsky, the 7'7" Romanian prospect who went viral a few years ago. The world was fascinated by him, but his body simply couldn't handle the sport. The pressure to live up to the viral fame can warp a young athlete's perception of success. Olivier Rioux has to navigate a world where everyone knows his face, or at least his height, but few understand his struggle. He has to deal with the disappointment of fans who expect him to be Wilt Chamberlain, when right now he is just trying to be a solid college backup. The burden of being a spectacle is heavy, and it takes a strong mental fortitude to focus on slow, incremental improvement when the world wants instant domination. So, we arrive at the ultimate question. Is the door to the NBA closed forever? It is unlikely, but not impossible. There is a specific scenario where Olivier Rioux makes the league. It requires his mobility to improve dramatically over the next 2 or 3 years. It requires him to develop elite, undeniable rim protection skills, becoming a player who blocks everything in a 10-foot radius. If he can do that, he could carve out a career like Boban Marjanovic. Boban is the best case comparison. He is 7'4", beloved by fans, and efficient in short bursts. But even Boban, with his high skill level and immense strength, averages less than 10 minutes a game in the modern NBA. He is a situational weapon, not a starter. The scenario where Olivier does not make it is far more probable. If the NBA continues to get faster, if teams continue to shoot more threes, the market for a slow-footed, 7'9" center will vanish completely. He faces the risk of becoming a quadruple A player, someone who is too big for the G League or overseas competition, but just a step too slow for the NBA. Scouts currently do not have him on their draft boards for 2026 or beyond. He might receive a Summer League invite one day, simply because teams are curious. They will want to see him up close, but making a roster, staying on a roster, and getting minutes is a mountain that is proving to be even taller than he is. At this stage, the question isn't just about talent, it is about time. The window for development is closing, and the game is speeding up. Olivier Rioux is a fascinating case study in the limits of human potential. He reminds us that basketball is complex. It is a symphony of size, speed, skill, and intelligence. Having the ultimate trump card, height, is no longer enough to win the hand. It is important to remember that Olivier Rioux isn't a failed prospect. He is simply a developing one. He is 19. He is getting a free education. He is part of a high-level college program. He is beloved by his fans and teammates. Even if he never steps foot on an NBA court, his journey is remarkable. The NBA isn't avoiding him out of ignorance. They are avoiding the risk. They are acknowledging that the sport has evolved away from the static giants of the past. Olivier represents a bygone era trying to find a foothold in the future. Maybe he will shock us all. Maybe the work he's putting in right now in the weight room at Florida will pay off, and we will see him anchoring an NBA defense 5 years from now. Or maybe he will find a successful career in Europe or Asia, dominating leagues with a different pace. But the story of Olivier Rioux teaches us a valuable lesson. We often look at athletes and say, if I was that tall, I'd be in the NBA. Olivier proves that it's not that simple. The story isn't about why he's not in the NBA now, but whether the NBA was ever really the place for him. Because sometimes the biggest question in basketball is whether size really is everything.